We're back, the Bullpen Mafia. We have a very special guest with us today. I think a man who probably needs no introduction down here in South Florida. He is the manager, the head man in charge for the Miami Hurricanes. It is JD Arteaga, a man that I hold in very, very high regard. Probably the reason why I went to the University of Miami, got to live out my childhood dream, but we have him here on the Mafia. So JD, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, man. And again, I've always apologized to you for ruining your life. It was between Miami and Harvard. And I out-recruited Harvard and got you to stay home.
I mean, that story is partly true, but there is a lot more to it than that. I mean, I would not have fit in at Harvard. My grades definitely didn't stand out the way they probably should have. But again, I can't say enough good things about JD. It's opening week. He's got a lot of things to do, but he chose to spend a little bit of time here with the Mafia. You got told wearing a Maniac hat, which
I've crossed the rivalry borders, JD, just for you. I got a Maniac cap on.
Did you tell him where you went to school? Does he know?
No, I don't think he knows. I'm a double whammy, JD. I went to Belen and Florida State.
You're lucky I didn't know that when you were in the office earlier.
He wouldn't have been so nice.
You might have gotten a loaded milkshake, I tell you that.
Well, JD, thank you sincerely for joining us. But before we get started, Bullpen Mafia, a cornerstone of our show, we've had a ton of Javi's former teammates on the program, and they all, of course, have great things to say. Javi's such a great guy. He got along with everybody. But you're the first of a kind. You're the first coach of his that we've had on. So I want you to be honest with me, be honest with our listeners. I know Aurora, Javi's mother's probably going to be listening to this, but tell us the truth. What was it like coaching Javi, and what were some of your mound visits like with him?
Well, so, I mean, mountain visits I don't remember. I do remember one particular game he was warming up for, the Sunday game at North Carolina.
Oh, this was bad.
And it was atrocious.
It was really bad.
It was so bad. And I remember telling him, I don't care how bad you do, I'm leaving you out there. You're going to embarrass yourself.
It was really bad.
It got so bad, I was embarrassed. Okay, we got to get him out, coach. I think he went like an inning and a third.
No, I went a little bit more than that, but it was still bad. I think I went 2 2/3. I think if I remember correctly, it was terrible. My warm-up session was awful. I went out to the mound feeling terrible, looked terrible.
How quickly, as a pitcher and on the coaching side, how quickly do you know if a guy has it or doesn't have it on a game day?
You know what? I mean, Javi, you can attest to this, but the bullpen normally means nothing. I've seen some of the worst bullpen warm-up sessions, and those guys go and have a great game, and vice versa. You know, there's no real explanation for it. We've all had those games. It's obviously Javi with that perfect game on March 4th, man. That's a special day always for me as a pitching coach, and also my son's birthday. So I don't know how you felt that day warming up, but it's not like I can say, man, he was really sharp in the bullpen that day, and he goes out and throws a perfect game.
You allude to March 4th, obviously a very special day for me, a very special day for JD. I hold Adi's birthday. It's always top of mind when I think of that day. But that particular day, dude, JD's so right. You go into the bullpen, you have no idea. Like when you cross the line, if you feel great, you might feel horrible. Like there's no correlation between what happens in the bullpen and what happens on the mound. I think some of the funnier conversations are when the bullpens are going really bad and you turn around to JD who's right behind you and he kind of gives you this smirk and you're like, I know I have to figure it out. I need to figure it out. And I was telling JD on the way here, it was really funny. My freshman year, I always tell this story, and I hadn't told Eric this, but we're playing at FAU. And my freshman year, I had issues understanding being self-aware. I did not know what kind of pitcher I was. I thought I could throw fastballs by everybody.
Identity crisis.
Yes, identity crisis. So I had a major identity crisis as a freshman. Thought I could throw fastballs by everybody. JD came out to the mound. It was a fourth batter for FAU. We're in a tie game in the 8th inning. JD told me to throw a slider. I said I want to throw a fastball. He said okay and turned around and walked back. The next pitch was a fastball, and it got hit out dead straight center field. And when you play FAU, you get a bus ride on the way home. So we lost the game. I was the losing pitcher. My phone, I couldn't even look down at it. I was getting texts from all my, don't worry about it. My first collegiate loss. I got back to Mark Light Stadium, and JD goes, "You still want to throw fastballs?" And I knew right then and there that my way of doing things was no longer the right way.
That's great. That's great coaching right there.
JD always taught us to pitch with conviction, and then I thought this is my chance. Hey, I'm going to be convicted. I'm going to throw a fastball to this fourth hitter, and I didn't throw all that hard compared to what guys are throwing now. 91 miles an hour to the fourth batter of FAU, and went out about 110. But JD, I think that leads us into, where we're at right now. Obviously, opening day is this week. For you, you've been around the program so long. We're pushing. I mean, I'm going to age you here a little bit, but we're getting on to 30 years of you putting on a Miami uniform, right? As a player, as a pitching coach. 27. We're approaching 30. JD, how exciting is opening day? I mean, this is, again, the 27th time you're going to do this. What's this week like for you, for your family, and approaching that Friday against Niagara?
I think for everybody, and I've said it in a few interviews this week, man, opening day is always special, whether it's, little league or high school or college or big leagues. It's opening day, right? I mean, everybody's undefeated, high expectations, everybody feels good about everything. So the whole week leading up to it, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work on this end as a coach, and I'm glad last weekend is behind us with all the alumni things that we had going on. But now it's between that's our hump week. That week before the final week where guys are tired of inter squatting and practicing and working on pop-up priority and rundown and stuff like that. And I get it gets old, but you got to do it, because once the season starts, as you know, man, it's more game time, more play time than it is practice. So, but now this week, and now it's the home stretch, and you see the light at the end of the tunnel. And now you start, fine tuning certain things, and guys have a pretty good idea what the starting lineup looks like after the lineup that was put up for alumni game on Saturday. So the focus is a lot better. We had a great day of practice today. We'll have another one more long one tomorrow night. Then Thursday will be a short maybe hour and a half practice, and it's showtime, man. So, but it's exciting. It's exciting. Very excited about this team, and like you said, I've been here a very long time, 27 years now, and I don't remember a pitching staff as deep as this one. We might not have a first rounder, but it just, it seems like 1 through 15, the guys can pitch. And there's, there's some guys usually on the staff that it's like, oh God, Javi's got to pitch. Okay, put him.
That happened a lot.
Maybe you're a freshman, we don't throw fastball back. We really don't have a guy like that. It's a good staff, and I'm really excited about it.
JD, when you think about, this year's team, right, one of the things that sticks out is a ton of newcomers, right? So you're trying to find roles, you're trying to plug and play guys that weren't with you last year, don't have a whole lot of history with them. As a coach, what are you trying to do in terms of, first of all, building a culture and sort of, integrating all these newcomers, whether it be through the transfer portal, incoming freshmen, but again, what has your role been to try and mesh this group together in the 2025 edition of the Canes?
We've dedicated in the fall. We dedicated every Wednesday. There was no baseball. We were nothing on the field.
Wow, I wish we had that.
Well, there's still voluntary time on the field. So we went out. It was all about team building and makeup and character and what life off the field, right? And trying to bring guys together and different exercises to do with the team. We went out to the beach one day and did our workouts there and stuff. So it's just kind of as much team building as we can do. And that's something that, Laz Gutierrez, that's his thing. That's what he did with the Red Sox for 12 years. But it's a mature group. It's a different group. As you know, you got a high school, freshman, and you tell them he's in the bullpen, automatically they think they failed and they got no role on the team. Because in high school, every pitcher goes 7 innings. And you got 2 starting pitchers and the rest, they don't get the pitch. We have enough veteran guys that transferred in that understand the importance of the bullpen. And when you tell them, hey, you're going to be our setup guy, or you're going to be this, they get it. That's an important role. So we have so many of those guys that they're able to take some of those younger guys and explain to them how things work and the importance of everybody's role on the team, which is going to be our biggest challenge, because we have probably, no exaggeration, 9 guys that could pitch in the weekend, that can start in the weekend. And they all came here to start. When we're recruiting them in the transfer portal and out of high school, it's I want to start. We get it, but you can only start 3 guys in a weekend and 1 midweek guy. So, but I just think it's a mature enough group that they get it, they understand it. The first challenge is going to be Friday when the first official lineup goes up, and there's only 9 starting hitters and 1 starting pitcher. But I think my gut tells me this team's going to handle that pretty well.
JD, as a pitching expert and former pitching coach, what's been the biggest transition for you professionally, the biggest adjustment from focusing solely on pitchers to now being the head man of every position, the batting order, every facet of the team as an organization?
When I was a pitcher, I wasn't very talented as far as just raw ability, and I didn't throw 95 or anything. And I spend more time talking to hitting coaches than pitching coaches. And not that, I was a great hitter, don't get me wrong. Every pitcher was a hitter. But I really wanted to understand what the hitter was doing. I want to understand why a hitter couldn't hit a certain pitch or why he struggles with pitches away in the zone. And that's something as a pitching coach, I think one of the better things I did as a pitching coach was pitch calling. And I knew how to get hitters out, and I couldn't do it. I wasn't like Javi. I wanted to throw fastballs. I had to figure out what their weakness was and try to exploit that. So, I spent a lot of time with those guys and learning about that. And Morris, I did all the positioning with the infielders. So when I was a pitching coach, I was involved in a lot of those things. And a long time associate head coach, which the title doesn't mean a whole lot, but you do spend a lot of time with the head coach and making certain decisions, whether it's lineups, whether it's off the field stuff. So I got to learn a lot under Morris and Gino, to be honest with you.
JD, you touched on something that's, I think, important right at this time of year. The first lineup that comes out, you got a bunch of guys and guys that may not necessarily be unhappy, but guys who had different expectations, right? I think managing the expectations of the roster is one of the most important things that you're going to have over a long period of time. We had John Jay in the studio last week, and one of the things John preached and, one of the things he said was most important for him in his career was always staying ready. How are you making sure that guys stay ready, guys stay focused over the course of a 56-game season where, hey, at some point, you may not be starting today, but a couple that, 3 or 4 days from now, you're all of a sudden batting fourth, right? And we've seen that happen so often throughout the course of Major League Baseball, college baseball, high school, just staying ready and being prepared for your moment.
You asked me how do I make sure that happens. I wish there was a way then every player would be prepared for their moment, right?
Right.
I mean, all I can do is communicate and talk. And look, my experience, Coach Morris was here and he talked to the team on Sunday before practice and, he kind of told my story a little bit. And my story, I was the fifth starting pitcher as a freshman, but we only played 4 games a week, so I wasn't going to get much action. And it was our third Friday night of the season. We're playing Minnesota, and our Friday night starter blows out his elbow in the first inning with 2 outs.
Wow.
And I was inside. I was in the locker room somewhere, and they come and get me and say, "Hey, you're come on, you're pitching." So I run out. I start heading to the bullpen. They're like, "No, like the game mound because he got hurt." I'm like, oh, gee. So I threw like maybe 3 pitches. I'm like, all right, I'm ready. Let's go. This is too much, whatever. And I pitched well. I went like 7 innings, 1 run. And I just, I took advantage of the opportunity. Was I ready for it or not? Probably not as well as I should have been. But once it was presented to me, I took advantage of it. And that's all you need in life is an opportunity. What you do with it, it's up to you, right? So the more prepared you are, it doesn't guarantee success, but it sure does help. I was fortunate to have success that first time out, and I never came out of the rotation after that, but it was just that one opportunity, that one day that for whatever reason I was given that chance. It could have gone the other way too, right? I mean, you see that all the time. Guys are grumpy and they're upset that they should be playing, and when they do get an opportunity, they try to do more than they should and don't perform. And then the next guy gets an opportunity, not that guy. So it's a matter of being in the right mental, right state of mind and being ready whenever your name is called.
I always, I think of you just said your story and Coach Morris shared your story. Your story is very unique as a player. Obviously, we had this super senior that came back when I was a sophomore, Eric Erickson. He gathered us around. He was I don't even know how old he was at this point when he came back. He was probably like 20. He was like in this era, he would have been perfect. He would have fit right in.
Right.
No one would have asked questions, but at that point, he was like 25. And he always told us like, hey, the guy in charge, the pitching coach, the guy in charge, his number's on the wall out there. So why are we not going to listen to him, right? Like JD had a tremendous career at the University of Miami, someone who knew and understood what it was to be a Miami Hurricane, what it was to, carry the flag for the people that played before us, right? And JD, I think, you haven't even touched on the craziest part of your story, right? You're playing at the University of Miami, all-time leader in wins, your number's retired, you go and play in the minor leagues, and you find yourself as the pitching coach of the University of Miami midway through spring training, right? So you joined the team after the season had started. Tell us about that story. I know it well, but I think our listeners would appreciate hearing how JD Arteaga became the pitching coach at the University of Miami.
Well, I just signed. It was early in spring training, so I just signed with the Rangers, and their spring training was in. I was excited about it because they for years they were in Charlotte, Florida, in Port Charlotte. Yeah. So That's us. It's a 4-hour drive or whatever it is. Said, no, we moved to Surprise, Arizona.
Surprise.
Surprise.
Yeah, surprise. Yeah.
Surprise E-show is really the surprise.
I load my car up and I'm driving to Surprise, Arizona, and I was determined to make it in 3 days. Determined. I'm going to make this thing in 3 days. And so the first day I drove to like Shreveport, Louisiana. I mean, it was a good drive there. The next day I get on I-10 and, I cross one bridge, then my windshield starts icing up. This is, March. I'm like, what's going on? And cross another little bridge, and there's 2 cars off to the side of the road. I'm like, that's strange. Cross the next bridge, and now there's like 15 cars that slid off the road. Where it turned out all those signs you see on the roads that bridge freezes before road does, or whatever it is. It was happening. And they ended up closing down I-10. So the second day I only drove like an hour and a half. That was it. So I was stuck in San Antonio. Then the third day I tried to make it all the way across. And if anyone's ever driven across West Texas, I mean, there's no radio, there's nothing. You get no service. Their CD player, it overheated. That's all I had in my car was a CD player. So
this is a sick drive.
Yeah, it's like flat tumbleweeds. I guess that show now, a Landman. Everybody's seen Landman. That's what it was like driving across all this stuff. I finally get into Arizona. I'm falling asleep, so I have to pull over. I didn't do it. I failed. It's going to take me 4 days to get out there. So now I'm Surprise, Arizona. I'm there for a couple days. And I get there on a Thursday. Friday night comes on the ticker on ESPN that pitching coach at the University of Miami has been let go. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. So Saturday goes by. Then Sunday, it's pitchers and catchers, right? So I throw my bullpen. I get in my car around 11:30, and I'm heading to the golf course. And I have a missed call from Coach Morris. And I remember calling Isha first. Said, yeah, Coach called me. He's going to offer me the job. And she goes, well, you don't know that. I said, yes, he is. And her response was, whatever you do, I'm behind you. And I said, yeah, you're full of shit, because she was done with pro bowl. She wanted me home. And I don't know if I can say that or not on this show, but she was, yeah, you're full of it. But he called and he said, the job's yours if you want it. But if you don't, then I'll open it up and I got to, interview some people. So I thought about it for a few hours, and I called him back and I said, Coach, I'll take the job. But I'm not driving back, man. I got to fly back and go. I'm doing it.
That drive across West Texas is what you should have made Javi do when he didn't respect your calls as a freshman. Seems like a good punishment.
We did plenty of drives across middle of nowhere America. JD knows the minor leagues, man. You have no end in sight on some of those bus rides. But JD, you joined the team in the beginning of this, right? The season had already started. So
it was 9 games into it. My first day, it was funny. My first day on the job was March 4th of 2003, and it was a Wednesday, right? So we practiced Wednesday. Thursday we head off to play Tennessee in Knoxville. So we fly out to Tennessee. I don't know anyone's name. I don't know the players. I don't know the signs. I know nothing. And Greg Lovelady was our volunteer coach, so he was, he knew what the signals were to the. Back then it was all touches and stuff to give pitches, so he knew the signals. So he would sit next to me, and I would say, fastball away, and he'd signal it in, and the kid would throw, the pitcher would throw the pitch, and there was a couple of times where I'd call a changeup, and the kid would throw a curveball, and I was like, what was that? He goes, I screwed that one up. I don't know. I do nothing, whatever. And so yeah, we go out there, we swept Tennessee my first weekend on the road, and I mean, I never slept better in my life. I was so mentally fatigued after those games, man. I was just done. I was just done. I was used to pitching, and while I was pitching, I was concentrating and focusing on what I was doing. But throwing 150, now I was throwing 150 pitches, 160 pitches per game. I remember asking Morris the first game. I said, I think the starter's done. JD Cockcroft was a starter, and I said, I think he's done. What do you think? And he goes, well, you're the pitching coach. You tell me.
That was a trick question.
Yeah. So, that was exciting times. And then, of course, we come back the next weekend, and our first practice is on a Tuesday, and we're throwing bullpens, guys that did not make the trip. So it's usually some of those the bottom guys. And the first guy to throw a bullpen is Cesar Carrillo. And Cesar throws like 2 fastballs. I'm like, what the hell is your name, and why weren't you with us this week?
Cesar Carrillo, former first-round pick.
Unbelievable. Like his arm, you could hear his arm. I'm like, who are you? Why weren't you with? Oh, I'm not eligible, coach. He has some kind of academic ineligibility. So he wasn't eligible as a freshman the first year in 03. of course, in 04-05 is an All-American and first-round draft pick.
Your first, right? That was the first All-American. Yeah.
All-American, first rounder. And the same note, we had another pitcher throw a bullpen, and he was horrible. And of course, I don't know, and I walk in the locker room after practice, like, who the heck recruited that kid? He's terrible. And Gino goes, Coach Morris did.
JD, with the NIL era upon us, what's some of the biggest differences of recruiting back then and now? It's night and day, even from when you were in Javi's living room trying to pitch him to pick over Harvard.
It's part of it, but if that's the main focus, then that's probably not the right player that you want, right? But as far as juggling the money and everything, it's in our sport, we're used to more than anybody else because with 11.7, it's a constant. You feel like a used car salesman. You're trying to get a player for 21% of a scholarship and the other one for 36, and we'll give you 10% more this year, but next year you're gonna give us back 5%, and just constant moving numbers around. It's not like football or basketball where you like a kid, you offer full scholarship, and then you move on to the next one. So it's a lot of that going on, but I think I'm all for the players making money. I think they should. I just don't think they should be making decisions as to where they go by how much money they're getting. That's the only difference.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not envious of college coaches. Today it seems like you guys have a whole lot more on your plate than you did, maybe even 10 years ago, and dicing up 11.7 scholarships. Now it's a whole new world, and it's been belabored. We're not going to get into it, but JD, you went through a roster reconstruction this year, right? I mean, you're bringing in a ton of newcomers, a ton of transfer portal guys. You got a JUCO transfer. How quickly did you realize, retooling this offseason, that the roster was materializing in a way that, this was a Miami-looking roster, right? Because I think, obviously, last year, not the results you probably anticipated and expected, but this year it's a whole new-looking bunch. You got, a bunch of different – the lineups looks totally different. You got 3 new arms in the rotation. So a lot of moving pieces, but to your point, very deep, a whole lot of arms that can throw, a lot of guys that can get outs. And then guys you had to put around Daniel Cuvet, right? You got Hudson from Liberty, Max Galvin from Oklahoma State, 2 guys that I presume are going to be somewhere in the middle of that lineup. So how quickly did the roster reconstruction sort of materialize, and what can we expect out of that lineup, opening day?
Well, if it's anything like tonight, we're going to score a lot of runs. So
those are not good days. When GM starts, wait, I'm going to give an aside here. When GM usually, I don't know if he still does, but he gives the synopsis. He reads the box score of what happened in the scrimmage. And as soon as you hear like double-digit hits and runs, it is, JD would give us hell. You didn't even want to look in his direction when he started saying double-digit because it's a wrap.
The walks are what got to me. The walks stung a little bit, but yeah, you know what? Javi, you really don't know, right? I mean, we weren't sure until the guys got on campus.
Yeah.
And as you know, I've been a part of a lot of fall Americans.
Yeah.
And then once the lights come on in the spring, there are different players. So I think we'll know for sure, right, starting on Friday. But from what I've seen so far, I feel really good about it. I think it is what college sports is today, where I think one coach said it. You rebuild a roster every year. It's no more building a program.
Yeah.
You rebuild a roster year to year. So, hopefully, I don't think it's going to be as drastic as it was for us this past year. But you're going to see more and more of it. And there's always it's hard for a 19-year-old as talented as a freshman as he might be to compete against a 23-year-old that's been through it.
Yeah.
That's failed and understands that you can't just throw fastballs by everybody, right?
It took me a long time, and that's why I'm sitting in this chair. I still wanted to throw fastballs by my 90 poo when I got to the minor leagues.
Yeah, but it's understanding who you are and that identity crisis. How long did it take you to figure out who you are? Not who you want to be, but who you are and what's going to make you successful and what your role should be and not what you expect it to be. So,
JD, a guy like Cuvet, you mentioned today at Media Day, Javi was unable to join us at the light.
Unfortunately.
You mentioned Cuvet and avoiding that sophomore slump, something that I think some people expect of guys who have tremendous freshman seasons. What has he done this offseason leading up into the season that sort of slump is going to be avoided?
Well, I think sophomore slump there's 2 reasons for it. One is kind of, sitting back on what you did last year and expecting to redo it. It's just going to happen because it just happened last year. That's not the case with Danny. I mean, Danny's as hard a worker as we have. So when your best player is your hardest worker, that's always a good sign. And he's a student of the game. That there's not a teaching moment that goes by that I'm talking to any player that when I'm done, Cuvet's not right over my shoulder, just creeping, and listening and learning and stuff. He's that type of person. You can't tell him to do something. You got to explain to him why you should do it, and it's always okay. But if you just tell him, hey, catch a ground ball this way, that doesn't work with him. He needs an explanation, for anything. And so with that, he's always studying. He's always into everything. So it's not going to be lack of effort or lack of hard work. Now, the other end of that is trying to do too much and try to be better than he was last year.
Right.
That's something that we just got to stay with him, and when they're pressing, and it's again a lot of communication, a lot of talking and stuff. He's got the ability to be a great player. He just doesn't have to try to throw the fastball by everybody all the time. Just get his base hits when they're giving.
I'm gonna get that tattooed on. JD, how good was he? Like how quickly did you realize Daniel Cuvet was one of these types of Miami lore type of players?
Power wise, I thought he had the most power of any freshman I had ever seen in Miami, and that's going back to the Ryan Browns and Yonder Alonsos and Zach Collins. Just pure power. I didn't think he was going to hit for as high an average as he did. I thought there was a little more swing and miss in there, and there really isn't. I mean, when he swings and misses, because he's swinging at pitches that Jesus Christ can't hit. They're so far. Right? You have guys that have swing and miss and pitches in the zone, and those are always concerns.
Right.
That's not the case with him. With him, it's just just chasing bad pitches. So I was surprised that his and I don't know what it was, 350 or whatever he hit. The home runs, not surprised at all. The batting average though, that was a little shocking. I thought he was gonna hit 315 with 20. He ends up
no big deal.
Casual.
It's crazy because you watch him play and you wonder, especially last year, he's the focal point of every scouting report. You pitch as a pitching coach. We get these scouting reports, and there's always one guy that you kind of circle, and you're like, this guy's not going to beat us. But he kept on getting better, and it was just impressive to see once you get into ACC play. And I was telling Eric the other day, looking at the conference. The conference is as tough as it's ever been. It's probably with the SEC the most loaded conference in all of America, right? So you get into this conference play where everybody knows Daniel Cuvet is the best player on the roster. He's the best hitter. He's the guy who can do the most damage to you, and he's still putting up numbers. So as a fan, as a former player, as a pitcher, those kinds of guys give you nightmares. Those are the guys that keep you up at night. Those are the guys that you hear their barrel ringing in your head while you're trying to go to sleep. Like, he is worth the price of admission. And I think, for folks that haven't gone out and seen a Daniel Cuvet, go out to Mark Light and check him out, because he is, like I said, worth the price of admission. Mark Light is the best baseball ticket in town. We've known that for a long time, but Daniel Cuvet is worth every single penny. JD, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, is there that sound of the bat like a Georgia Tech lineup for ACC championship game, or?
Oof, that one cut deep.
We're going to need further.
That was bad. Georgia
elaborate.
Tech, dude. Georgia Tech. They were very good.
Like the Super Bowl. It was kind of like the Super Bowl. It was over in the first quarter.
It was over in the first inning. I think the first 6 guys got on base all with singles or doubles, and it was not like cheapies. They were, again, I was trying to throw my fastball by guys, and I have a very good friend of mine, Kyle Wren, who played for Georgia Tech at the time, was the most annoying hitter. I knew I didn't want to face him. He got up in the first inning, and that's where it went downhill pretty quickly. That's the one where I think I won an inning in the third. North Carolina, I think I got 6 outs. I think I got 6.
You didn't get out of the first inning. I know for sure you didn't get out of the first.
I knew JD would bring up some good bangers, man. That's good. Those are healthy. I hadn't thought about that game in a really long time. I kind of put it away, but
successfully suppressed.
You got to go back to therapy now.
JD, what do you think this is, JD? Come on.
Why do you think I'm sitting here? JD, you got 3 new arms too. You got we alluded a little bit to it, but you haven't had this unproven of a rotation in a very long time. You got Nick Robert going on Friday. I believe Brian Walters on Saturday. Griffin Hugas on Sunday. I'm not sure if that's correct. Toad, you are me today. Does that sound right?
I think Walters is going Sunday.
Walters is Sunday.
Yeah. Hugas on Saturday and Walters on Sunday.
So you got 3 guys. What can we expect? What can the fans with those 3 guys? What are we looking forward to in that weekend rotation?
Nick's is our most. We only have 2 pitchers returning, so it's not saying a whole lot. But he's the most improved returning pitcher. But he has improved quite a bit, especially his secondary stuff. And he was pitching kind of out of position last year. He was a kind of a ground ball contact guy. Worked 89 to 91. No breaking balls, kind of a sinker changeup guy. And he's come back, man. He's pitching 93, 95. He has 2 really good breaking balls now. Hard. He's one of those guys that's done it right. He kind of learned how to pitch, and then he started working on his body, and he gained velocity. Where every kid now is just chasing velocity from the age of 12, and no one ever learns how to pitch, right? So he's made a big jump, and he's crazy to say, but with 32 innings, whatever he's got, he's our most experienced pitcher on the staff as far as pitching at Miami. Hugus was a two-way guy at Cincinnati, so this is his first year as a pitcher only. Kind of majority worked out of the bullpen last year, but had a great summer. He's a guy. He's going to remind you a lot of Gage Zeal. Nice. His mound presence, his aggressiveness, his repertoire. It's a 93, 94 fastball with a power slider. Gage's changeup might have been a little bit better, but they're both extremely competitive. And Brian Walters, it feels like he's been around for 7 years because Andrew Walters, but he's only got 15 innings in his career for us.
That's crazy.
He got hurt maybe his second appearance his first year with us, and last year was very limited because of coming back from surgery and knowing he was going to need a surgery at the end of the year. We only threw him once a week basically, and it was usually a 1 inning, maybe 2 inning stint. So he didn't get up to 20 innings last year. So it's great. He's got great stuff, but still somewhat unproven, but we feel good about him on a Sunday.
I mean, this is such an exciting time of year, and to have maybe not as experienced as starters, but all starters with great stuff. I've seen these guys throw. I've seen Brian Walters, while having not the most experienced 15 innings, it's been electric stuff. I mean, he flashes some of the best stuff we've seen in a really long time. Obviously, his brother Andrew's in the big leagues with the Guardians. So, I mean, you look at those 3 guys and you start to think, they may not be experienced now, but you always say it. You're not 3 weeks into a season. Everybody's going to have a scouting report on you. They're going to know what kind of pitcher you are, and that's when you really start to see these guys cut their teeth and the type of mentality this starting rotation will have. JD, we're gonna get you out of this. Get you out on this question here. But one of the things I always appreciated, and one of the things I always I loved about my time at Miami was the alumni, the brotherhood, the ability to come back and be part of this program. I think obviously with you, it's been so nice for all of us to be part of this journey with you. We know how hard you've worked. I can give personal testimony. You've had a tremendous impact on my life, and the ability to say that, I am extremely proud of you and this program. I'm proud to see you as a head coach. It's a very deserving and a long time coming. JD, when you get to the park on Friday and you deliver your final message to the team before they take the field, what's it going to be? What can we expect from these 2025 Hurricanes? What do you say to these guys and, sort of bring that legacy with you and take it into opening day on Friday?
I'm not a big talker pregame, Javi. I think it all comes into preparation.
Yeah.
I think it's, of course, it'd be a short talk, but it's about really appreciating your time, where you're at, and taking advantage of the opportunity that we have that's in front of us right now. And like I said, we got 29 new guys, and I think that might be the biggest difference from a year ago, right? I think just the appreciation as to what they have from where they're at, and it's different. It just feels different to me. Again, I've been here for a long time, and it got to a point where some guys came in the expectations and they just wanted everything handed out. And I'm a Hurricane, so we're going to win. That's not the case, right? It's not. You don't just show up and win. And these guys, it just feels different. It feels different with their appreciation. So now they've put in a lot of hard work. We've put in a lot of hours. Now it's the fun part. Hopefully, the practice has been the tough part, and the workouts has been the tough part. Now we get to have fun and go out and play the game.
I mean,
I'm fired up.
You got a Seminole fired up. A Seminole is fired up.
We don't need to put that so publicly in front of the Miami Hurricanes head coach. Thank you very much.
No, Toad has a Miami degree. Degree.
Okay. I do. I'm a house divided, mind divided. I'm very conflicted.
Allegiances divided.
But JD, thank you so much for joining us. For our listeners, catch Miami Hurricanes opening day this Friday night at the Light. It's Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day. It's a
cheap date, Javi. It's bad enough. Who schedules a wedding on a Saturday night in March? That tells me he doesn't want me at his wedding.
If I schedule my wedding March 22nd, you can imagine what the conversation is going to be like to get to opening day on Valentine's Day. So I'm gonna try my best, but I will definitely be there Saturday. I know that for a fact. Saturday the 15th, I will be there.
So catch the Canes, JD and Javi this weekend at Mark Light. Friday night opener against Niagara. And again, it's Valentine's Day. Cameron Gorby made sure I mentioned there's some sort of special deal. If you're a couple, it's $70. You get a blanket, you get milkshakes, you get your name on the scoreboard. So we hope to see everyone at the Light this season. I know I will be there sitting side by side with Javi when his fiance doesn't want to go, which will be most of the time. But JD, thank you so much. It's been great to speak with you today. I was talking to our producer earlier. Hadn't spoken to you my entire life, and now it's twice in the last 5 hours. So thank you very much.
Good job holding out the Florida State part till we got it.
It's funny. Toad is so ingrained in the University of Miami culture now that it's almost like people, they think you're a Cane.
Yeah.
And you are. You're a Cane.
Yeah, I am.
By the end of this, you'll be a Cane.
The greatest Cane ever, Ron Frazier went to Florida State.
That's true. There you go.
It's fixed.
Okay.
That's Toad's career arc.
So did the second greatest Cane ever. There you go.
Well, JD, thanks so much, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys. A lot of fun.